Today's kettlebell workout is going to go back to basics. We're going to focus on some of the most fundamental strength training exercises you can do with the kettlebell. I'm going to walk you through each exercise and we'll talk about the specific cueing points to keep in mind in order to get the most from each exercise. When we're doing our goblet squats, the main thing we want to keep in mind is to keep the weight in the heels, to sink our hips just below the knees so we really get the back of our legs engaged, and to make sure that our elbows stay right inside the knees in the bottom position. So chest stays up, bell is going to be slightly away from the chest. As you sink down into the heels, those elbows will come right to the inside of the knees. I'm sinking nice and low all the way down, full range of motion. Then I'm going to drive through my heels, squeeze my glutes to bring myself back up to standing. When we're doing our push-ups, we want to make sure to keep our abdominal muscles engaged. So in the top of your push-up position, you don't want to let your back start to arch as you get tired like this. You want to tuck your belly button up and butt forward so that core is engaged as you lower down and push back up. So a lot of times as people get tired, when they push up, that core starts to get weak and they come up this way. If that's starting to happen to you, I want you to come down to your knees and do your push-ups from your knees. Same idea, keeping that core engaged, but going to make it a little bit easier for you to get that locked in throughout the whole push-up. Besides that, working full range of motion, chest to the floor is going to be really crucial into building the strength on that push-up and making sure that you're getting the most out of each rep. So if you need to, drop down on the knees to get the full range of motion. When executing the two-arm kettlebell swing, you want to make sure that you set yourself up at the bottom of a deadlift position when you're starting this lift. So my hamstrings and my glutes are already engaged and ready to go before I even pick up the bell. What I want to avoid is doing a squat-like movement with the kettlebell, which is going to end up having me feel this exercise mostly in my lower back. So what I want to do is I want to load my hamstrings and glutes and then stabilize with the core at the top of the lift. So when I pull that kettlebell back, I'm going to be stretching out my hamstrings kind of like a rubber band so that when I come up and squeeze my glutes, it snaps forward. So it's like stretching that band and then letting it pull back together as we launch. Squeezing those glutes tight as well as keeping the core engaged so that at the very top, you're not pinching your lower back by just thrusting the hips forward without any core control. So core stays controlled so that at the top of that swing, abs are tight, glutes are tight, and we're not compromising the back. Arguably, the least basic and most challenging movement of this workout is the single leg RDL. So on this movement, we're really mimicking our same leg action as the deadlift, except now we're doing it on one leg, okay, which really forces that one single standing leg to be really active in the glute and the hamstring. So one of the key pointers you want to make sure of here is that your weight stays in the heel of your standing foot. So if you start to push towards your toe, you're going to end up flailing around and losing your balance. So weight stays in the heel so that those hips really drive back as you come down towards the floor. You also want to make sure that this standing or the free leg doesn't start to twist behind you, because if that hip opens and the leg twists, again, it's going to throw you off balance. So try to keep this leg kind of tight and engaged and reach it back, trying to keep our hips square to the ground as we come down. Besides that, you want to make sure that as you're lowering down, you don't let the bell pull you forward and your back starts to round this way. Now we're not keeping our core engaged and we're going to compromise our back. We're not engaging the legs like we should. So make sure chest stays high, roll those shoulders back, belly to the floor, hips up, and then slowly lowering down to the floor. Take your time on this one. It's really a core stability and a balance exercise. So take your time with it to make sure you really get it right. The last exercise we're going to work into our back to basics workout is a hollow hold. So this does not require a kettlebell, but I think it's a really good way to learn how to engage your core in a multitude of exercises. So we're going to focus on the hollow hold. So there's several different versions you can do. The most important part of this is that your low back stays glued to the floor throughout this exercise, as well as that your shoulder blades stay lifted. So level number one of that hollow hold is going to be here, knees right over the hips, legs bent, arms to your sides. So I should not be able to slide my hands underneath my lower back. I can hold right here. This is going to be a great core exercise to start. Level two, you can bring those arms up overhead. So this is starting to challenge the core more as you still are lifting your shoulder blades. Okay? Alternatively, another level two is you could bring your legs out and keep your arms in. Level three is going to be arms and legs out. Notice my back is still glued to the ground. From here, if I want to make it more challenging, I just lower my legs to the ground. But if my low back starts to pop up, that means I need to regress and come back to an easier version. So while you're doing the longer holds on this workout, for example, a minute, you can start with a more challenging version if you want. If you start to get tired, you start to feel your back start to get compromised, go ahead and come back in to an easier version and continue the hold.